There is a book about a boy who dreams of treasure, but the treasure is never really the point. This is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and the real question it asks is simple. Do you have the courage to follow what your heart is telling you? His name was Santiago, a young shepherd from Andalusia, Spain. He slept in ruined churches, used books as pillows, and led his flock across the fields. He was happy, or at least he thought he was. But one night he had a dream. A child led him to the pyramids of Egypt and told him, "Go here, and you will find a hidden treasure." He dismissed it. Dreams are just dreams. But then he had the same dream again. So he went to a fortune teller. She told him the dream was real. Go to Egypt. Find the treasure. She asked for 10% of it in return. He laughed and walked away. Then a strange old man appeared on a bench in the plaza. He was reading the same book Santiago had been reading. He spoke to Santiago like he already knew everything about him. He told him about personal legends. Every person, the old man said, is born knowing what they are meant to do. When you are young, everything is clear and everything is possible. But as time passes, something convinces you that your dream is impossible, and most people stop. The old man said his name was Melchizedek, king of Salem. He gave Santiago 2 stones, black and white, called Urim and Thummim, for yes, for no, for the moments when you cannot read the omens yourself. Then he said something that Santiago would hear again and again throughout the journey. When you really want something, the entire universe conspires to help you achieve it. Santiago sold his flock, every sheep he had cared for 2 years. He bought a ticket to Africa. In Tangier, on his very first day, a stranger befriended him, offered to guide him through the desert, took all of his money, and disappeared. Santiago sat alone in an empty marketplace. No money, no sheep, no plan. A stranger in a country whose language he did not speak. He could have gone home. Most people would have. Instead, he noticed a crystal shop at the top of a hill. He offered to clean the shop windows in exchange for food. The merchant said yes. Santiago stayed for 11 months. He worked every day with the crystal merchant, a man who had spent 30 years dreaming of going to Mecca but was too afraid to go. The merchant knew everything about crystal and nothing about how to live. Together they built the business. New displays. Tea served in crystal glasses. Customers filled the hill. Santiago learned something important here. He learned that the fear of loss is always worse than the loss itself, and that every blessing ignored becomes a curse. When he finally had enough money to buy a new flock and return to Spain, he stood outside the merchant's shop and made a choice. He kept going. He joined a caravan crossing the Sahara Desert toward the pyramids. The desert was enormous and silent. The caravan moved by the light of the stars. The camel driver told him, "I do not live in the past or the future. I live only in the present. And that is where God is." In the caravan, Santiago met an Englishman. The Englishman carried boxes of books about alchemy. He was searching for an alchemist who lived at an oasis called Al-Fayoum. He believed the alchemist knew the secret to turning lead into gold. He believed in the philosopher's stone. Santiago and the Englishman disagreed on everything. The Englishman learned from books. Santiago learned from the world. But they were after the same thing. The caravan reached the oasis of Al-Fayoum. Tribal wars blocked the road ahead. They would have to wait. And then Santiago saw her. A young woman came to the well to fill a vessel with water. Her name was Fatima. When their eyes met, he understood the universal language, the one that needs no words. He was in love. He came back to the well every day. After a month, he told her, "I want you to be my wife." But then a vision came to him. Watching 2 hawks in the sky, he saw an army approaching the oasis. He warned the tribal chieftains. He was right. The attack was stopped. He was given 50 gold pieces and offered a place as counselor of the oasis. He thought about staying. He had Fatima. He had gold. He had safety. Then a horseman in black appeared in the night, a sword at his shoulder, a falcon on his arm. He tested Santiago with the blade. Then he spoke. He was the alchemist. The alchemist told him, "Go to the pyramids. Fatima is a woman of the desert. She knows that men must leave in order to return. Love never stops a man from his personal legend. If it does, it was not true love." Santiago went back to Fatima one last time. She said, "I will wait. I am a part of your dream, and the desert will always bring you home." He left before sunrise. The alchemist led him across the most dangerous part of the desert, through tribal wars and checkpoints. When soldiers stopped them, the alchemist told them, "This man can turn himself into the wind." They gave him 3 days to prove it. On the first day, Santiago felt nothing but fear. On the second day, he climbed a cliff and listened to the desert. On the third day, he spoke to the desert, then to the wind, then to the sun. He asked each of them for help, and then he prayed. Not with words, with his heart. A sandstorm rose that blotted out the sun. And when it stopped, Santiago was standing on the other side of the camp. He had turned himself into the wind. The tribal chief bowed his head. The soldiers stood in silence. The alchemist brought Santiago to a Coptic monastery near the pyramids. There, in a simple kitchen, he melted lead and added a sliver of the philosopher's stone. The liquid turned red, then cooled. It was gold. "The boy is yours," the alchemist said. "He already knows what he needs to know." Santiago walked alone to the pyramids. When he saw them under the full moon, he wept. He began to dig where his heart told him to dig. Then men appeared from the darkness. They beat him, took his gold, demanded to know what he was searching for. When he told them he was looking for treasure buried here because of a recurring dream, the leader laughed, and then said something that changed everything. He said, "You are a fool. 2 years ago, I had the same kind of dream. A voice told me to travel to Spain, to a ruined church where shepherds sleep, where a sycamore grows in the sacristy. It told me there was treasure buried at the roots, but I am not stupid enough to cross the desert for a dream." The man walked away. And Santiago stood up, because he knew exactly where his treasure was. He walked back across the sea, back to Spain, back to the ruined church, back to the sycamore tree. He dug at its roots, and there it was, a chest full of gold coins, jewels, and ancient artifacts, left there long ago and forgotten. He had traveled across a continent, crossed a desert, fallen in love, turned himself into the wind, and been beaten and left for nothing at the foot of the pyramids, only to find that the treasure had been waiting for him at home the whole time. But he would never have understood its worth if he had never left. He would never have found Fatima. He would never have learned the language of the world. He would never have known what his heart was saying. And that is the whole point. The treasure was never just the gold. The treasure was who he became on the way to finding it. The alchemist was right. When you really want something, the entire universe conspires to help you achieve it. But you have to start. You have to sell the sheep. You have to cross the desert. You have to listen. Most people die never having found their treasure, not because it was not there, but because they were too afraid to look. Santiago was not afraid, and on the wind from Africa, he felt a familiar touch. The scent of someone waiting. "I am coming, Fatima," he said. That was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If this story stayed with you, that is the point. See you in the next one.